But first tonight, how Australia has become a more racially, ethnically and economically divided country under Anthony Albanese's watch. We were all astounded and angry that 80 councils across the country changed the date of Australia Day citizenship ceremonies this year. Then today, a new level of disrespect. The New South Wales Premier was forced to intervene to stop a music concert drowning out the Anzac Day march in Sydney. We are now seeing an erosion of respect and appreciation for our country and those that have fought for us. And it struck me today that the fabric of life in Australia has changed considerably in just the past year. Social cohesion has fractured quite dramatically under Albanese. Leaders have a choice. They can govern for all voters, even those who don't support them, or they can choose to divide the country. Whatever the Prime Minister's intentions are, and presumably he thinks he's doing the right thing, but the reality is that we're now a nation more fractured with less respect for elders, tradition and values. Thanks to Albanese, we're seeing the re-emergence of old class warfare. The Prime Minister has scrapped sensible reform of the tax thresholds for high income earners. The workers Labor considers the top end of town, even though $146,000 could hardly be considered well off in major cities during this cost of living crisis. It's not fairness when, as the Australian reports, economist Chris Richardson calculates that the top 1% pay as much income tax as the bottom 71%. But Labor says this is unfair. Those above $146,000 need to pay an even higher share of the tax burden. Albanese doesn't want his tax package to be pitched as wealth redistribution. He's told his MPs not to mention fairness and to instead sell this as a solution to the cost of living crisis. But of course, this is classic class warfare. The Australian's Paul Kelly writes that it's been 5 years since the great union boss Bill Kelty called for Labor to be the aspirational party and cut the top marginal tax rate to about 40%. Paul Kelly says that such ideas are heretical inside today's Labor. He says that tactical geniuses that were convinced the Voice referendum would pass have now made their follow-up tactical call that larger tax breaks for lower and middle income earners will resurrect Labor's electoral fortunes. But Paul Kelly notes that this is divisive policy that punishes taxpayers who earn more than $146,000. Now, aside from wealth redistribution, the splintering that we're seeing in our society really began during the Voice campaign, when the Albanese government accused no voters of racism, misinformation, and of being chicken littles of the past. In a major misjudgment, it turned out that more than half the country didn't support a Voice, so the Prime Minister insulted the majority of Australians. And the referendum divided families, classrooms and workplaces. Corporates angered their customers by telling them how to vote and what to do. The division between the elites and the suburbs emerged strongly, with families in the grip of a cost of living crisis that the political leadership simply didn't understand. And then the Voice defeat on October 14 melted into the aggression of the pro-Palestinian protesters. There was an escalation of hostility on our streets. The protesters brought their truculence and intimidation to the suburbs, the beaches and outside synagogues, while hate preachers incited violence and the Australian flag was burned on the steps of the Opera House. Shameful scenes, with police failing to arrest a single perpetrator, only one Jew. The Indigenous and Palestinian cause has now become quite absurdly intertwined.
The parallels between what happened here and what happened in Palestine are absolute. Always was, always will be. From the river to the sea.
Palestinian leaders like Nasser Mashni, who we've had a lot to say about in the past, well, he's wrongly claimed that Jews are not indigenous to the land of Israel, even though Jews were living on the land of Israel for at least well over 1,000 years before the formation of the religion of Islam. The Palestinian protests were given moral licence by Albanese, who's continued to lecture Israel about abiding by international law, the implication from the Prime Minister that it hasn't been. And then you look at the Australia Day weekend that just passed, with men in black masks intimidating families at public parks and on trains. And you think Australia is unrecognisable. And I'll say it again, not one charge laid. Instead of celebrating our country, even mayors and local councils seem intent to divide us, with 80 cancelling citizenship ceremonies on Australia Day itself. We're seeing division on class, religion, ethnicity and income. And perhaps there was an undercurrent before, but the discord has well and truly bubbled to the surface in less than 12 months. The very fabric of Australian life has changed under Anthony Albanese. It's the role of leaders to unify citizens, to call out division, to stand up against anti-Semitism, to set the tone for our country and to defend our values, our standards and our principles. And sadly, we're not seeing that leadership from this Prime Minister.